So I'm Matt Tate. I am the CEO and founder of Decimal. I think, as the kind of headline said, I'm a recovering attorney. I started out my career practicing law. Um, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, though, so being a lawyer was never like a long-term thing for me. My wife would tell you that the reason I'm glad I went to law school is because that's where I met her. So I'm very glad I went to law school so I could meet my wife. But since practicing law for a few years, I've been helping start and run businesses. And Decimal is my fourth company. And we started it in January of 2020. And what we really did was, at my previous companies, I had always struggled to find good accounting, tax, and bookkeeping help. I tried hiring people to do it. I tried hiring the best accounting firms to do it, and they were all different variations of terrible. And so, like any kind of good entrepreneur, my co-founder Jacob and I started a business to solve our own previous problems, and that was Decimal. Now, we really started it to do two things at once, which ironically is not something I recommend most entrepreneurs do. I think focus on one thing, get it right, then do the next thing. But this happened to work well. So the first thing we decided that we were going to do was to build a really fast growing but successful bookkeeping and accounting firm, and to do it in a highly tech enabled way. The second thing that we were doing was building an operating system and a set of playbooks and an infrastructure to allow other people to successfully run their own firm. And so we did both of those. And about a year ago, we decided that we had finally achieved what we were looking for in building that operating system, that platform, that infrastructure that other people could use to successfully run their own firms. And we'd been using the playbooks for years. And, one thing that we noticed was, most people grow pretty slow in accounting, but we went from 0 to 1,000 clients in under 6 years. And these were bigger clients. These are people that, 5, 10, $20 million in revenue. These were good businesses paying us a lot of recurring revenue. And so as we built that and we used these playbooks to grow the firm and we'd reach the infrastructure standpoint, that's when we decided, like, hey, it's time for us to help other people. It's time for us to create a model that you have mutually incentivized success. And that's what led us to franchising and helping other people start their firms where when they win, we win. When we win, they win. And I've always been a big fan of aligning incentives. And so we got to that point. Now, simultaneously, we had also built one of the fastest growing, largest kind of CAS, what people in the industry call client accounting services or bookkeeping firms. And going back to my previous comment of not wanting to do two things at once, we decided to sell that firm. And we were able to sell that firm very quickly. And we like the idea of, hey, we came into the industry, we weren't accountants, we built a fast growing firm, we ran it exceptionally well, and we sold it for one of the higher multiples the industry has ever seen. And we thought that was a good kind of success metric to lead us into franchising, to say, hey, these playbooks, this platform, these are things that can help other people successfully run their own firm. So we started franchising and we launched our first three franchises early this year. I guess it was technically like December of last year. But really, they got started earlier this year. And we just did their first quarterly business reviews, and all three firms are doing very, very well, and are very, very happy. And so a couple of weeks ago, we sat down with this WeFranch team and decided, you know what, it's time for us to grow. I think, as you all can imagine, if we were able to grow an accounting firm from 0 to 1,000 in 6 years, then our idea of growth is not slow. And we really want to build out a community of firms, of people that can succeed together. And so we are excited about that opportunity. We're excited to build a community too. One of the really fascinating things that we've learned just in the kind of what I would call the 6 month beta, this first group, is they're cross referring each other business. They are working together. They're not just working solo, running their own firm, running our playbook, but they are actually working together. And the way that we support firms is very hands-on. We provide services on a daily basis, so we're in communication, we're coaching, we're helping with the playbooks. We've also built a lot of AI agents that help more frequently too. This is an AI native franchise. I think you'll see over the years a lot of people say they're AI native, but as people tend to say, Decimal is like the capital E in early adopter. We really do implement these tools both on the market and what we build. They are ingrained in our entire platform in every aspect because that makes it easier to do the work, to run the firm, to sell the clients, to grow the business. So high level, I think that's super fast. I'm happy to unpack kind of any aspect of any of this. I'm much less interesting than I seem, but happy to chat through any questions anybody
Awesome.
has.
Awesome. So yeah, I think now we'll be sort of diving in and probing in specific sort of places. So
I really liked what you said that it's AI first. So we've been, talking about tech first franchises. That in itself is a big kind of like step in franchising, but
Yeah.
AI first is definitely the latest trend.
right. So I was going to ask, so like in accounting, like there are
Cool.
thousands of accounting firms. Some owners succeed and others struggle. So how you say, what is your view on how you see that and how you set up Decimal franchisees to succeed?
It's interesting. I read a statistic that accounting firms, and there are like hundreds of thousands of accounting firms. So it is a very entrepreneurial industry, but they fail at a higher rate than other SMBs. And I think that's true. And part of the reason is, and look, I see this as being a lawyer. You go into a profession for a job and they don't teach you how to run a business. And what I see a lot of accountants struggle with is a couple of different things. One is they get so locked into doing the work that they stop thinking about running it as a business. They've taken themselves into having a job, and a job becomes a byproduct of how much time and energy you're willing to spend and how much money you can make doing it. A business is something that you create leverage and you create profit. Revenue is important, but profit and kind of cash is, I think, way more important. And I think that what our goal is, what my goal is at Decimal is to help people build a business. We want to move accountants, move firm owners into the role of you are helping to grow your business and you're managing client relationships and advising clients. I think what that also does, one of the big unlocks that we had that helped Decimal grow faster than the rest of the marketplace was that we're business owners helping business owners. People don't actually care about accounting. Except, like, by the way, I need to file my taxes. Here are my books. Let's file my taxes. Please don't screw it up. That's important. But what people really care about is, can I pay my bills? Can I get paid? Are my people getting paid? And when I need to understand my business and how to achieve my own outcome, that I've got somebody that can help me do that. That should be the role of a true advisor and a true accountant. And the reality is most accountants get kind of pulled down into the doldrums of the work. And Marianne, that goes back to kind of your statement of how important being AI native is. Decimal is both a global workforce as well as an AI native company. And that's important from both senses because we leverage outsourced workflows and outsourced teams, mainly in the Philippines today, that are helping do the work. They're lowering the cost point of work, which creates leverage, which creates the opportunity for profit. We are also leveraging AI to do the work as well. And I'm on the advisory board for a lot of AI companies in this space. In fact, I was in New York last week for a company called Ramp and learning about how they're starting to leverage AI to take the work away. Because what this is about is creating capacity. You want to have the capacity to leverage yourself as a business owner. And for us, that's we want to allow our firm owners to build their business, to grow it to the size that they want to be at. And what most accountants, to your original question, where they get stuck is number one, there's just so much noise coming at any business owner. Here's what I should use. Here's the tools. Well, guess what? Decimal is just going to give you the playbook that worked for us, that can work for you. We're going to give you the system. We're going to give you everything. And guess what? All you have to do is follow the playbook, use the tools, go grow your business to the size that you want it to be at. Done. We have massively simplified the variables of running a business. And I think that's one of the like huge benefits and joys of franchising in general. But I think it's also unique to us how we've created the system to be able to work for our firm owners so that we can all succeed together.
Sounds great. I
Awesome.
think one. I guess Miriam has a question.
Cool. So the basically like for people in the audience to understand if they're a good fit for Decimal, maybe if you describe the 3 existing franchise groups, like where do they come from, what's their background,
Yeah.
how they become your franchisees.
So first, we'll talk about Jay in Kansas City. Jay is an awesome guy. He was one of Decimal's first clients. So back in 2020, Jay became a Decimal client. He was running a tech company as a COO and overseeing finance. So he had a finance background, the ability to kind of understand finance, talk business. That company sold to a publicly traded business, so it stopped being a Decimal client because we can't do publicly traded books. And then he went and ran a multi-unit franchisee. And so he and I have kept in touch over the years. When we started talking franchising, he was like, I'm in. I saw what Decimal has done. I've been in businesses that didn't have Decimal. Like, it's a game changer. I've seen franchising. I know franchising. Like, I'm in. And Jay is he's a business owner. He's a networker. He's running that kind of local playbook, and he is just exploding. We had his quarterly business review yesterday, and like, if every quarterly business review went like that, we're all going to do great. And so Jay's comes from an understanding and running finance, but he's a business owner and an entrepreneur. He's also a networker, like really wants to get himself out there. And both those characteristics are going to him so far doing a very good job running a franchise. Second, I'll go to Jason, who's in Charleston. Jason owned his own accounting firm about 15 years ago and sold it when he moved across the country to get into accounting tech sales. And so he is an accountant. I believe he's a CPA. He's had his own firm. He's been in sales for a long time, running large sales teams. And I've known him through one of the companies that he used to work for. And when we started talking about franchising, he was like, man, checked out all these alternative ways to build a firm. He looked at all the different ways he could start one. And he's just like, it's too much work or it's too expensive. Like, I just need the easy button and something that can help me do this. And he bought a franchise and he is succeeding at it. And he's got the ability to be the accountant, but also to be the leader and kind of the business owner. He's had his own firm and he's seen the differences between kind of what Decimal looks like and does and what he used to see and what he's seen in accounting firms he's sold to. And so he's profile number 2. Profile number 3 is a super unique one, and it's a private equity group called Circle City Capital in Indianapolis. And they own multiple brands, multiple companies. But the first company they ever bought together, it's 2 owners, Joe and Colin. The first company they ever bought together was an accounting firm. And then they bought 2 others, bolted it together, sold it. And now they've got like 18 brands. And they were just thinking, like, hey, it'd be great if we owned another accounting firm and we could turn a cost center of what you have to pay for this stuff into a profit center. But they remembered how painful it was to buy an accounting firm and try to transform it into the modern era. Because just so you know, accountants aren't typically early adopters and good at technology. And so when we started talking franchising, they were in a heartbeat. And they were really cool because they came out of training and they said, holy smokes, like we have never seen an infrastructure like this, a platform and a system like this. And so they've started rolling their own portfolio companies onto it as well as selling. They also have a kind of sister company that called Profit Mastery that helps business owners understand their own financials. And so they're kind of pairing those 2 things together. But I think that those are really good examples of kind of the entrepreneur who understands finance, who can run a firm, the kind of CPA who's had a firm that wants to do it better or transform that firm. And then the kind of investment profile of private equity, wealth managers, family offices that want to invest kind of more into a sub-segment on their main business.
So with each of these, you kind of mentioned it's almost like you're referencing something that like I can see. Like so when you say like kind of like Jane, he had seen it, so he had seen the difference it make. Can you describe what is Decimal? Like what is the AI? What is the playbooks that you refer to? And I'm sure if people like, perhaps if people are interested, as part of their discovery, you will show them some of that in one-on-one.
Oh yeah, look, part of the discovery is number one, we'll run through all the like go-to-market sales playbooks, all of the assets that we have that can help people, all the coaching that we do on the sales side of how to attract businesses, how to work with you to attract the type of clients that you want. You mentioned AI, like one of the cool agents that we have, and Jay uses it a ton. Really, they all use it, but Jay is using it more because he's growing faster. Is we have a pricing agent. And this agent sits on all of these calls and you feed it transcripts of the call and it says, hey, here are similar decimal clients in the past. Here's how you should price it. Here are the SKUs you should provide. Here are some objection handles you might see. And very shortly, then it's going to be, and by the way, here's the proposal that you can just send and it's ready to go. So it's this like, not only you don't have to just learn these playbooks, but it's you have like an assistant sitting next to you. It's not a chat bot. It's like a thinking, working entity that we loaded all decimal sales and go to market data and pricing and conversations into. And it's just an active helper on a daily basis. And so part of it from a go to market side is those playbooks. It's also the systems. And then we show everybody that everything we work in. We have a decimal platform that we've built on top of everything that makes running a firm much, much easier. Um, when you deal with just like running a business in general, but accounting, you have a lot of platforms people have to log into and, work in and all of this stuff. And what we've built and what's continuing to improve is our own platform that just simplifies that greatly. And then we show kind of how the AI works inside of it as well as the other tools. And so, yes, if you can't tell, like my general business thesis and my personality is to probably be too transparent. So that's just kind of what we're doing here. Now, what we're learning in franchising is there are certain things I'm legally not allowed to say. And we want to make sure that we're being open and honest, but we are being transparent the whole time. And we want to show everybody everything. We want people to inherently know. And look, this process is two-sided. Like we're going to be evaluating the right people to fit our community and see who we want to award a franchise to. But then we want you to evaluate us. Like this is a 10-year commitment, and we want to make sure that we're going to succeed through it together. And I think it's going to be really awesome for the right people that decide to do it with us.
So I want to focus kind of like on this idea of the platform, and you said that existing franchisees already help each other. So, in
Yeah.
traditional franchising, when we think of a territory, it's kind of like, yeah, I can refer people that are not in my territory, but with the virtual franchise, how does kind of like the idea of a territory work and competition with, other
Yeah.
decimal franchisees?
I think it's a great question. Look, in the territory is not the asset you're purchasing here. And I think that's really, really important because so much of franchising is about purchasing a territory. And that works if you are McDonald's, or that works if you're Crumble Cookie, or if you're a realtor. It doesn't work in the world of accounting and virtual accounting. When we were Decimal, we had clients in 48 states. The only two that we never had was Hawaii and Vermont. And it's weird for me, we could never get Vermont. So the first franchise that gets Vermont, I'm sending them like teddy bears and flannel. But we've never had Vermont. So this is the way that this world works, and the way that you build a business is you end up with clients from all over. And so Jay may end up with a client in Charleston, and Jason in Charleston may end up with a client in Kansas City, and that's fine. Like what you're building, you're still running that local playbook because so many businesses want that what we call the network and connect playbook, where it's people it's somebody that you can see, but that can also be the virtual somebody I know. Like I think Gregory would be a great decimal client. And so whoever buys a franchise needs to sell him on letting you do his books. And like that's just how this world works. The asset that you're purchasing is something so much bigger, so much more valuable than a territory. It is the platform, it's the playbooks that allowed us to start a firm, grow it faster than everybody else, operate it better than everybody else, and then ultimately sell it for better than everybody else. Does that answer your question?
Definitely. Um, so the next question is, you kind of outlined that I don't need to be an accountant, but I could have been. I just need to be a person understanding finance, ideally like with business experience. So if you get into like what is the role of the decimal owner, like what do I actually do day to day? Like what are my responsibilities? Who do I hire? So we can like paint the
Yeah.
reality of, yeah.
So I do think being an accountant can help with running a franchise and being a franchise owner. Because at the very beginning, what you need are two roles. You have dual roles that are needed in a franchise. You have somebody that can help clients and serve as an accounting manager. A manager isn't doing accounting work, but they're overseeing the quality of the work that's getting done for them. And that helps to have an accounting background. You need that credibility. So if you are an accountant, you can kind of serve as that person while you're growing your MRR, while you're growing your revenue, to then hire somebody to take over that role. The second role that you are playing as a franchise owner is the growth in sales. And that's something that you don't need an accounting background. Jay does not have an accounting background. Now, in the two private equity groups, like they have an accounting background, but that's not what they wanted to do. When you're that person, and you'll see in our FDD, there's a range of startup costs. The reason that range exists is because if you're Jay, you're immediately hiring an accounting manager. And so your cost to start a franchise is a little bit higher, but then you grow your way into that revenue or that cost structure. And so if you are an accountant, you can serve dual roles. If you're not, you need to hire for one role to be able to take it over. And the biggest thing that you one of the biggest things that you get in all of this is to give you an idea of the marketplace. And Gregory asked a question kind of about accountants and firms and why they fail. It's an exceptionally people heavy business. So a typical like accounting firm that has maybe $1 million might have 7 or 8 US employees. And a decimal firm won't need nearly that many because so much of the work is being handled by decimal franchise services, and it's just more technologically advanced. And so you don't have to staff up to nearly the amount, but really a fraction of that amount because the work is just handled in a much more effective, much better, much more leveraged way.
So I'll pivot to the next question. So in terms of like the cost structure in the FTD as well, so it seems like some other variable is there are two modes to start in. You can start by organically acquiring customers, or you can acquire a book of clients. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right now you cannot acquire a book of clients, but that will change in the future. And here's what we mean by that. Decimal in our history, we've made multiple acquisitions, and we will constantly be looking to make more. But at the same time, we do not intend to run a corporate franchise. It's one of the reasons why we sold our business. It's one of the things I think is kind of tough sometimes in franchising is like if you have this virtual world, but you're competing against the franchisor, like that kind of feels weird. That doesn't feel like aligning incentives. So it's one of the reasons why we sold our firm was to not compete with our franchisees. We want to go all in on just helping other people build their firm. But we will look to make acquisitions in the future. And we talk to small firm owners all the time. What will happen is we will acquire them as a franchise, and then we will make sure to convert them and transform them into the decimal way, and then sell those directly and immediately to our franchisees or potential franchisees. So that's where you can acquire a book. We also have multiple people right now that are out there looking to acquire accounting firms, and they'll do that simultaneously with us where they will make the acquisition and immediately convert it into a franchise. We have a transformations team. This is work that we do for you. I mean, you have to kind of partner with us and do it, but like we're deeply incentivized to help you transform that quickly. And it's something that because we've made multiple acquisitions, we are exceptionally good at. And so Gregory, to your question, like that's where that range kind of comes from is if somebody looked to acquire a firm and wanted to transform it, we would do that and help them. We will continue to look at acquiring franchises. And I say that because we would acquire a firm, immediately convert it to a franchise and sell it out. Um, but all of those are things that we think our goal is to help franchisees as much as possible. And if there are ways that we can acquire and help them stair step the level of growth, sure, we're going to do it in a heartbeat.
So kind of like the next question, since we're on this topic, so what are the steps to opening? And then like, what are the costs associated with starting a Decimal franchise? So obviously there's the franchise fee, that's kind of like the
Yep.
known expense, but yeah, what is everything else? How long does it take?
So the franchise fee is $30,000. So I think for those people that are like really well versed in franchising, that is not a very high franchise fee. We find it to be a very approachable number for people, and that's the majority of the costs. And you then have some technology costs. You have to hire a delivery support person in the Philippines. There's a range in there, usually about 12 to 1800 plus a management fee on top. Um, and so your fee structure ends up being about $45,000 to it can go all the way up to $1 million according to our FDD if you want to buy $1 million firm in addition to starting. Um, but yeah, I would say it's typically about 75,000 to 45,000. And that's for the technology infrastructure setup and stuff like that. It's 30 days to start. It's a very quick training process. We want to run people through it. We want to run the playbooks. But here's the thing: like so many businesses, so many franchises kind of think of training as a one-stop thing. Like I'm going to train you and then good luck. We don't view it like that at all. We want to do that. We're going to train you. We're going to help you, and then you're going to have daily meetings, stand-ups. You're going to have coaching. You're going to have peer groups. You're going to have check-ins. We're going to have accountability meetings on growth. And as you onboard, we're going to help onboard your first clients with you. Like we're going to really do this as a very hands-on process. And so we really view that first 30 days as what it takes to set up, give you the initial training. And then how do we continue to hold your hand and help you until you don't need us any longer?
My next question is, and yeah, to the audience, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat. Um, but one second. Right. So a lot of times, like when we speak to prospective franchisees, they're really worried about like launching the franchise, right? So yes, you get training, you kind of like in theory get trained on how you, like start becoming successful. But like for the Decimal franchisee, how do they actually start getting customers? And what's like that ramp up? What does that look like? Is it months? Is it like a year? When they're actually like between when they launch and when they're in business serving
Yeah.
clients?
So the basics of the kind of startup go-to-market playbook is what I call that network and connect playbook. So like right now I'm working with a potential franchisee and he's potential. We're already working together just during the process to build out his go-to-market plan. And we're working with him to let's talk about your network. Who are the people that you can locally grab coffees, grab lunches? Like, who can you sit down and meet with? Because in all the technology and all the ways that we've learned to do B2B go to market, it's created a ton of noise that just doesn't work anymore. Like back when I started, I'm old, so like I remember cold calling people used to work and then cold emailing people used to work and then cold LinkedIn messages used to work and look, we've been here for about 30 minutes. I've gotten five spam calls. I've probably gotten 200 spam emails. I've gotten a dozen spam LinkedIn messages. Like the noise far exceeds your ability to use those tools effectively. And so we help people build a network and connect playbook with their local network, then with their digital network. Let's use your LinkedIn connections. Let's help you build out your network from there. Let's have you ask for advice. It doesn't matter. I'm a Midwesterner, but I swear this works in New York and San Francisco as well as it works in Indianapolis. Is you reach out to somebody like, hey, I'd just like to pick your brain. It works. People like to help other people. And so we help our franchisees and we do it even in the sales process. Guess what? You want to start your own business? This is a playbook that works. And we're going to give it to you before you buy. And then we're going to help you refine it. We're going to help you grow it. We're going to give you more assets to use it. Like we're going to make sure that you have everything you need to grow. But ultimately, this is your responsibility. And it should be it's one of the things that firm owners and I think business owners struggle with is you just have so many plates to balance and juggle. Well, guess what? Decimal takes all of that. We take your internal billing. We do the recruiting for you. We take all the infrastructure so that you don't have to worry about the technology decisions, so that you can focus on growing your business to the size you want it to be at, helping the clients that you have, and advising them. Those are the three things you have to do as a franchise owner. And if you can focus on those, I think you have a much higher chance of success. And so that's where we really do help people on that go-to-market approach. And look, when we get leads in, we distribute them to franchises, but that's a like nice to have, not a guarantee. And so, like, this is all about helping them stand on their own 2 feet, build sustainable pipelines for themselves, and holding them accountable to doing the hard work to accomplish that.
We actually have a question from the audience. So it says, can you explain why Decimal is not able to be used with public companies? And I'll kind of like broaden it. So who are the types of businesses that are perfect for, as a Decimal customer?
So, number one, let's look at the span of services that we can do. It's bookkeeping, it's operational support, helping bill pay, helping payroll. It's tax support, like filing taxes, tax advice. It can also be CFO services, like let's advise people on how to run their business. When it comes to anything below the advising, they need to be on QuickBooks Online as a ledger, or Xero would be another choice. The reality is that the most businesses that are using QuickBooks are in the kind of sub 100 million, maybe 200 million in revenue. So they're in that small mid-sized business range. We would usually say like the base price, the lowest ever price you could really offer at Decimal is still nearly $1,000 a month. So from a willingness to pay, most businesses you're going to work with are going to be in that kind of 1 million to 50 million in revenue. Most publicly traded companies don't have those revenue profiles. They also, it's not a good thing if you're a publicly traded company operating on QuickBooks. Like you're going to get dinged by investors on that. There's some funny stories about companies being on QuickBooks and being public and their CEOs going to jail. So like it's just not a recommended playbook. But I do think if you have publicly traded like networks, you can leverage that into advising them, giving them CFO advice, advising them as business owners. That can still exist within a Decimal franchise, but that would be the one kind of layered segment. And that's why we would say, like, from a profile perspective, most publicly traded companies are not operating on QuickBooks and definitely shouldn't be.
Awesome. So you mentioned your transparency, and I'm sure, people are wondering, but kind of like the golden question of how much am I going to make? Like, what's the ramp up? So, like basically for people to evaluate,
Yeah.
what their financial future is going to look like. So anything you can share on that topic.
Yeah, what I would say is log into WeFranch. Got a great model in there that they've helped us put together that you can start to apply what you think you can do, and where you think growth would come from. What I would say is there are kind of two basic inputs that you look at. Most Decimal clients fit the profile of a premium client. And those are kind of bigger businesses. They need more operational support. You're doing bill pay for them. You're doing payroll support, maybe. You're helping with taxes. They're kind of bigger, more mature companies that would really look at hiring somebody. They're typically paying you a minimum of $2,000 a month, upwards of $10,000 a month. Those are kind of the bigger types businesses. Now, when you run into a super small business that just says, hey, I just need this stuff done. I need the reports. I don't need as much operational complexity. They're still about $1,000 a month. So you have to think like as you grow, what's the profile of your client going to look like? And those are the inputs that you can put into that WeFranch model. Anything beyond that would be a financial performance. I forget what it's called. Lawyers ran me through like, yeah, I went through a ton of legal trainings, and so I got to be very careful how I answer that question. But I do think the WeFranch site gives you an amazing opportunity to kind of walk through that model. And then in part of our sales process, we will walk you through ideal client profiles that we see as you start to build out your own network, kind of where your network sits in types of businesses. Like we are really teaching and training, and our pricing agent is helping teach and train our franchisees to chase those larger, more operationally complex businesses. Because the other thing in the history of Decimal and in this industry, the single largest churn reason or reason you lose a client is because they go out of business. And so by chasing these bigger companies, they go out of business less. And here's the thing, like everybody hates this area of their business. It's one of the great things about running it. Like you have to do it. You've got to pay taxes, you got to pay your bills, you got to figure out how to get paid, but you hate it. So when you find something good, you never leave it. And if you're going to stay in business and like these main street companies that grow 2 to 5% a year max, like they're amazing clients that stick with you like forever. And so it creates a really good snowball effect of a business. Like, McDonald's has to convince people to keep coming back in and back in and back in. Like, this is the type of business, it's monthly recurring revenue. They sign annual contracts. Like, you keep them for a very long period of time. And we help you create the output of work that makes them happy too.
So we actually have another question from the audience. Do you have any concerns with your tech first business model being replicated in today's AI world? Can the AI be used against your AI?
Oh, well, I am going to start watching Terminator movies more often. Um, Here's what I would say is you will always have to do this type of work. And trust, credibility, and accountability are not things AI is going to take over. And people want to trust. They want to find credible accounting, and they want it to be able to be accountable. And so, no, I do not see this going away. I actually see this business model getting larger and larger. And let me give you a couple of different reasons. One is it's becoming way harder to hire people to do this. So you have to do it, but it's harder to hire people to do it. And so that's increasing the demand for outsourcing. Another thing that's happening that's unique to accounting is private equity has just really entered the market in the last few years, and it's consolidating the marketplace. When private equity consolidates a marketplace, what it does is it creates a bunch of tiny firms and a bunch of super large firms. And the type of business or the type of end client that gets left behind is that small business as they get priced out of the large firm. But that small firm really, really, really stinks at what they do. Because if they're good, they outgrow their ability to just handle it themselves, but they're not good at running a business, so they're not good at scaling, so the quality of service decreases. Decimal is like the perfect combination of the multi-million dollar infrastructure of a large firm, but all the amazing qualities of that small local firm that you can trust. And so the opportunity and demand is there. Number three reason is we are leveraging AI in a way and in a kind of capability that nobody else does. We were the first business to ever leverage an AI native ledger. We had more clients on an AI native competitor to QuickBooks than anybody else in the world. And we still have those. We still use QuickBooks, but we use that. We are working with some of the largest companies in the space at leveraging AI. We are building AI into our own products and into our own services. Like no one is out there further ahead in the use and implementation of AI than Decimal is. And that's one of the promises that we make to our franchisees is that's our job. Our job is to do that so that you don't get written into irrelevance while a lot of the other industry does. And accounting is the type of industry and accountants where they adopt technology much, much slower than the rest of the world. The first time I started Decimal, Jacob, my co-founder, I finally convinced him to help. And it was 2019. And I'm like, let's go to our first accounting conference. Neither one of us are accountants, by the way. Like, don't trust me with your QuickBooks at all. They don't trust me with my own QuickBooks. So I take them into this conference, and it's all about the cloud is coming. The cloud was fully adopted by the rest of the world like 10 years before that. But accountants were still talking about the cloud is coming. So we're in an industry that they will be slow and we will be further ahead. And the further ahead we get, the further that gap becomes and the bigger the opportunity that arises. So I think it's the perfect storm and the perfect time to do this with whether it's private equity barbelling, the decrease in the number of accountants that are out there, the increase in the need for a technical, like tech usage, like software abilities. Uh, it's kind of like if you think about when you're learning as a kid, they teach you how to do your addition, subtraction, and then you get to middle school and they give you a calculator, right? Like we're a calculator. Everybody else is still doing addition and subtraction, like we're a calculator.
So one thing I want to talk about, when usually when people are, get into starting a business, they're thinking of their startup cost. Yeah, it seems like it's,
Mm.
relatively low. Then the other thing is down the road selling it. So many
Yeah.
people like sort of getting it start to the end in mind. And you've been able to do that at a great multiple. But what is it? Are there things that, you were able to do that made that possible? Yeah, I guess if we can talk about that.
Yeah, it's creating leverage. It's thinking of it as a business, not a job. Like so many people, the lawyers, accountants, doctors, like they start their own thing and it's a job. They just aren't getting the W-2, they're the 1099 themselves. They're the independent contractor. For me, this is about giving people a business and a company that they can run. And that helps create leverage, which creates an asset instead of a job. And so that's what we are helping people create is an asset that they can either passively own or actively work in. And then, by the way, like at some point, you want to sell this, we're going to help you do it. Like that would be great. I love the idea. I was talking to the broker that helped us sell our firm, and I'm like, dude, the first time I have to call you and say, like, one of our franchisees wants to sell his firm, I need you to help us find somebody to do that. Like, we're going to be super happy for that. Like, that is an awesome outcome. It's aligning incentives. That's a great outcome for everybody. And we'll just find another franchisee to buy. I think that's amazing. Like, this is all about asset creation. And Gregory, you're right. Like so many people, running a business is hard. Like I've started businesses, I have bought businesses, I have sold businesses, I've run the full gamut, and I really view this as the easy way. I was talking to a group of Butler University. They're here in Indianapolis, where I am, like business school MBA graduates, and they asked me the question. They said, "Hey, you've bought businesses, started businesses, sold businesses. Like, if you're in our position, what are you going to do?" And I said, "That's a no-brainer. Like, I would absolutely like find a fast-growing B2B franchise, and I'd buy one, and I'd run it for a year or two. I'd create the cash flow. I'd combine that with debt, buy a second location or third location, and I would keep that snowball running. And then I would eventually buy subunits. The great thing here is because Decimal is not in, like, the territory isn't the asset, you can just keep growing in as much as you want. Jay, our Kansas City franchisee, called me the other day and he's like, "Hey, I've got some buddies in St. Louis. I really want to buy a second location." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, I want to sell in St. Louis." And I'm like, "Go do it." And he goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Go sell in St. Louis." And I was like, "And then Nashville, go sell in Nashville. Like, go do it all, man. You are not constrained by a territory." And he was like, "Oh my gosh." So he sold a client in St. Louis. So I think St. Louis is like, he's going after it. But this is that type of business where you just get to grow and go as much as you want to until you're happy.
So the final question for now is, so what is the next step? And then you also describe this process that you guys have. It seems like at
Yeah.
every stage people get introduced to a particular part of the business. So maybe if you like describe what the process is like and what the next step for people here is.
Yeah, so we would put people into two categories. And so I'll walk through the process for each category of kind of individual and potential franchisee. The first category is people that currently have their own bookkeeping or accounting firm and want to transform it into a Decimal franchise. So starts with me. I will absolutely pop on a call. I would love to learn about you. And then we'll put you through to our operations team, and they will work on a joint kind of transformation plan and franchise sales plan. So working with you on both categories. I have a feeling most people in here would be more in the like, I just want to start my own franchise and firm. So the first thing is it starts with an interview with me. So right now, like I've said, this is my fourth business. What I have learned and what I'm going to continue to do as long as humanly possible is I'm going to be part of this process. We want to figure out the right people to award a franchise, the right people to grow a community around. And so we're going to start with an interview with me. And through that process, the second stage is going to be you're going to sit down with me and we're going to build your go to market plan. If you had a franchise, if you had your own firm, how are we going to grow it from day one? And how is Decimal going to support you in that growth? So that's step two. Step three is you're then going to sit down with our operations team and we're going to run you through the Decimal platform. all the costs that are associated with it, all the aspects of it, all the technology, etc. Those are kind of the three main steps, and from there, I think we'll also be able to introduce you through WeFranch to the model, and you can start building your own financial model. We're selling an accounting and bookkeeping firm, so we want people to be able to build their own financial model. I think that's important. So that's a test. Can you build your own financial model? We can't validate it for you, but we can at least validate you can build a good model. Um, and so once we do that, I think we'll all have a very good idea on, are we ready to like move forward? Are we going to get serious about this? And then that starts the FDD legal process franchise agreement. And like I said, recovering attorney. So I will work with you on the franchise agreement. Look, our goal is to grow this community very well. This is our year to like focus on building the foundation of franchisees. Next year, we'll start to grow a little bit faster. And then ultimately, we want to get to over 1,000 franchises. We want to build a really robust community of people that all want to succeed together, work together, and build a community. And so that's what our ultimate goal is, and that's kind of our process. Did that give you the full scope of everything?
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. That's a great place to end, but there was an anonymous question, and because it's anonymous, there's no way for us to follow up without them. So if you don't mind, I'll just sneak it in.
Oh man.
Okay. Even though, and I also don't want them to think we're kind of like dodging the question, because it's kind of like, even though GAAP may not be somewhat relevant within bookkeeping, do you have any concerns with compliance when using support outside the US?
I do not. My second ever hire was a Philippines team member. And what the question is getting to is twofold. So, are they good accountants and are they producing good work? And yes, they are. I would actually argue that they are as good or better than most of my US accountants. What I found is in the Philippines and in other countries where outsourcing has become a exceptionally highly leveraged industry, that you have really good quality work. Number one. Number two, we run them through our own process and train them ourselves. We are helping co-manage them. These are people that are trained on the decimal way. They are also people that are working hand in hand with US accountants. Like this is exceptionally important. If the pandemic has given us anything, it's that global workforce. You can work from anywhere. You can be a US person working in Eastern Europe. You can be a Philippines team member working in Australia. It does not matter. The quality is what is important. And can they do quality? Absolutely. 100%. The second thing that you're getting to is security, and we take data security very, very seriously. And that's part of our job is we're data security plus we're IT. Like anybody here has ever been a business owner, like the worst day you ever have is the day you open your computer and realize you have a problem and it doesn't work and you're trying to figure out who tech support is. Then you realize you're tech support and you don't know what you're doing. We're tech support. So not me. Once again, not capable of doing any of this stuff. You're going to hear that a lot. But our team at Decimal Franchise Services supports our franchisees as tech support and so is helping. And we also are tech support in the Philippines. We have our own company in the Philippines. These are our employees. So that I think is also very, very important. The second thing is, will businesses buy with Philippines team members? We don't hide. We tell people all the time, we are using a global workforce. We're using team members in the Philippines. And guess what? Nobody cares. What people care about is, do they get the quality they want? Do they have the advisor they can trust? And do they know that you can do everything that you say you're going to do? And the answer to those questions at Decimal is yes. And we hope you'll co-answer that with us as yes as well.
Sounds great. And I think that question, it's somewhat like a detail, but remember when you're starting and designing a company, you have all these questions in your head on how to
Oh, absolutely. And look, I also understand why they ask that anonymously because like can sound bad to like ask, but it's really not like that's a very legitimate question. And like I totally understand the question. I'm just saying like number one, we have built this into the fabric of Decimal from day one. Number two, we have been working on the quality and the importance of that quality and output from day one. All of these things are really important. And if there's anything I want to convey here today is like we think very deeply about this because we care very deeply about the shared outcome. And so, like, we should be able to answer all of these questions very well, unless you're asking for financial performance, in which
Representation.
case I'm just not going to answer it because I'm legally not allowed to.
Yep, exactly. I was going to point out, so it's so useful to have someone, in this case, Decimal Team and yourself, Matt, who has done this before. So by definition, you spent years answering these details and
Yeah.
experimenting, figuring out what works, and exiting, selling companies. So you'll have gone through due diligence to make sure you have an asset that you can sell to someone else. So I think that's invaluable. That's, at least for me in franchising, I'm drawn to that. Like, you don't you get someone with a track record that you get to build something with, almost like a co-founder, but you get
Yeah.
to own it.
Yeah. And I love small businesses. I love helping small business owners. I love these conversations. Like, one of the things that my team has been laughing about is like, they're like, dude, you started a business now that is like you're hiring your friends. And I'm like, I absolutely am. Like,
Right.
I love talking to small business owners. I love these conversations. And like, I'm very excited about bringing people in that I can work with and help succeed.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome. We actually have one more question from
I'm
the
in.
audience. I was just scanning through it. So I think we kind of like talked about the lack and absence of territories, but this
Yeah.
person, anonymous person, is asking, how do you prevent competition within the franchise system? Additionally, how do different franchisees differentiate themselves in their web presence?
So let's unpack that. That's actually a couple of different questions. Number one, the first time our franchisees compete on a deal, I'm going to throw a party. Like, I'll be very happy. Once again, 1,000 clients in 6 years. We competed on under 15% of our deals. So like, we just generally, there are millions of small businesses, there are hundreds of thousands of accounting firms. We never compete. So yeah, that's number one. Number two is we've built into our systems, our CRMs, that if one franchise puts prospect in, the others can't. So we've systematized around creating that type of kind of castle and moat and protecting our franchisees. So that, I think, is also very important. Is like, we've thought deeply about how do we make it so that if you're talking to somebody, no one else can talk to them, and how do we do that? Will we be perfect, and will there be issues? I'm sure there will be, but here's the thing: our franchisees are also already sharing clients, so like, they're already just working together, and you can't steal, because guess what? You'll get in trouble, and that trouble costs you money, and so like, we're also the police around that too, and we really want everybody to succeed. And so we want to make sure that that is an important part. Now, how do you differentiate yourself? I'm going to go back to that Network and Connect playbook. And it starts with a horizontal, and that is within your network, within your local area. We want you to be known as, for me, the Indianapolis Decimal franchise. We have the Carmel, Indiana one, the Charleston. There may end up being 10 in Charleston. And so it's a local neighborhood. Like, become that local person. That should be a big part of kind of the network and the brand that you're building. Now, how do you do it from a web presence standpoint? Number one, build on that. And then number two, finding a vertical, finding a couple of verticals. That's the T. You have the horizontal is your network, and that can be your digital network as well as your local network. And then the T is, and it can be multiple, is kind of the vertical that you have specific expertise. We had lunch with a guy today that works with Series A, Series B tech companies. That's a great vertical. J is multiple unit franchisees. That's an awesome vertical. So pick out where we have somebody that has talked about. He's a active reservist, and he wants to work with veterans and veteran-owned businesses. That's an amazing vertical. We've talked to somebody that might be listening today that's talked about Spanish language. Spanish is a first language speaking companies. Like, that's an amazing and hugely fast growing vertical. So it's leaning on both of those and differentiating yourself from kind of that local as well as that vertical specific playbook. And we've seen both of those work and have all the assets and playbooks to help support growth in both areas.